I'd like to call the Macomb City Council Committee of the Whole to order. Roll call.
Mike Wayland.
Here.
John Vajezi.
Here.
Don Wynn.
Here.
Tom Cook.
Present.
Ashley Katz.
Here.
Tammy Lee Brown Edwards.
Here.
Dennis Moon.
Here.
7 present.
Public comment. Citizens wishing to address the City Council on matters germane to the agenda of the meeting. I'm sorry, I got to put my glasses on. Will be limited to 3 minutes and are asked to be brief and concise in making their remarks. Comments submitted by mail or email will not be read aloud, but a copy will be provided to each member of the City Council and made part of the minutes. Do we have anybody here that wishes to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on. Discussion on proceeding with the quality-based selection procedure for the Adams Street design and construction contracts. I assume Alice is taking this.
Good evening.
Evening.
In accordance with federal requirements, we need to go through a quality-based selection procedure to hire an engineer for the design and the construction management services for the Adams Street ITEP project. So although IMEG did design the first phase and has done a lot of the preliminary work, we can't just give them the contract. We have to go out and go through this procedure. So I'm asking for permission to be able to go out and do that.
Any discussion? Okay. I would suggest maybe we put this on the consent agenda.
I would second that.
Pardon me?
I would second that. If you're gonna make that motion.
I can't hear you.
No, I would second that if you're gonna make that as a motion.
I didn't, but I will. We have a motion and a second to place this on the consent agenda. Roll call.
No, just a,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Discussion on authorizing Vanden and Associates to prepare designs for the Piper Street Pike Park and Bill Thorpe Memorial Park. This was a recommendation made from Park and Pool Committee and a memo from the CDC. Banyan is in your packet for review. John?
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Staff proposes that 2 pocket parks, Piper Street Park, which would be at 529 West Piper, and Bill Thorpe Memorial Park at 1300 East Pierce, be designed. Vanden and Associates is a firm, and they'd be able to produce a conceptual design for both for $3,125, $1,000 of which would be eligible for grant reimbursement. These would be concept plans, and then Park and Pool and Council could adopt those plans or modify them as they see fit. But these are quality park designers, and it would be good to get a quality plan produced.
In what capacity have we used them in the past? You mentioned we've got a relationship with them.
There was an opportunity to have some park designing for the Hager site done through them, through the Brownfields grant that we're in a coalition with through Prairie Hills Conservancy. So they did a conceptual plan through that program for that site, and it's I think they did a fairly good job. I'm not sure that that is at a stage that that plan will be of use for a great many years, if ever, but they did a good job through the process, and they're willing to do this for a very reasonable price.
Well, my concern is, and I know it's not a lot of money, these aren't very big parks. Between staff, council members, we can't design it ourselves. I don't know what we're looking to put in these parks, so, I mean, they're not very big.
I think the The idea would be to create a neighborhood park where it's more of a space for people in the area to gather, not a destination park. So maybe some benches, maybe some picnic tables, trees, maybe some focal point like a piece of art or a memorial plaque. When looking at available spaces, these are a fairly far distance from any existing recreational or park facility in these two neighborhoods. Both these neighborhoods are very mixed income, and so this would definitely have a positive impact upon those neighborhoods. The space on 529 West Piper is going to be demolished shortly through a grant and therefore be vacant. But it was a nuisance property before that, and the space on East Pierce is currently vacant. So these are already places without buildings on them.
No, I understand all that. I'm just saying, I would think between the staff and ourselves, we could figure out how they want to be used and possibly consult with the people donating them and how they'd like it to be used. And we could proceed with there without spending any money.
I mean, we certainly could. I just think it would be useful to run those by professional planners. It's not that much money.
Well, I hate to interrupt you, but I get tired of every argument we have is, well, it's not that much money. Well, you start adding it up, it starts to amount to a significant dollar amount citywide. I don't know. Alderman Vigazzi?
John, are there any other types of grants or funds that we could use that would mitigate any of the funds coming from the city?
I believe the ARPA funds would be eligible, given that these are in, I think the verbiage of ARPA is disinvested areas.
And those
So-
two would fall within that demographic?
They're in LMI areas, which would be low to moderate income.
Okay. And correct me, Scott, if I'm wrong, but as we went through the Park and Pool Committee, these areas, as you mentioned earlier, are in need of some green space, and that would help to, based on where the other parks are located around the city, or green spaces around the city, that would help to create those green spaces for those communities. For those
No,
neighborhoods.
I totally agree with that. I'm just not sure we got to pay somebody to tell us that. I mean, I've had people approach me, only one since our park and pool meeting, but before that, I've had others about splash parks. And someone mentioned maybe you'd want to put a splash park in these. I don't know if that's a direction we want to go or not, but Alderman Brown?
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. One, because this is not a budget item, where would these funds come from? That's the first one. Secondly, you said that the areas that these parks are in do not have recreational parks, or and this will not be a destination park. So I wonder, instead of, I guess my question better is, what direction would you be giving to the design firm far as what we want to put in those spaces? Because my concern is that if it's park poor in those quadrants or in that area, that, would benches and art piece benefit if the income, kids just want to play. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if, that space could be used for something besides just a sitting green space. So what direction would you be giving the firm?
Well, I think that's part of the reason why you consult with a planning firm with experience with parks, so they can, looking at the size of the space and looking at past experience, they can give you some best practices, and whether that's putting trees along the perimeter, whether that's putting a path in, whether that's putting a bench in, whatever the best practice is, they can kind of give it to you. We'd also like to do a stakeholder meeting for the park on East Pier Street. I think it needs to incorporate some elements to recognize Bill Thorpe, and so it needs to have some stakeholder input. But, we've spoken anecdotally to multiple people along the street on Piper, and they were all in favor of some sort of neighborhood park. I think there's not an interest in having a destination park, something that would require driving to with a lot of driving, like it's not appropriate for a splash pad. It's clear neighborhood feedback on that, but there is a desire to have somewhere for families to hang out, for people to go walk their dog, play Frisbee, that sort of thing. And I think that's something that size could accommodate fairly well, but we would like to run it by some planners just to get an idea of how those elements to go together ideally.
Okay, and the first question, where would that non-budget item fall?
So, as John mentioned, 1,000 from the demolition Strong Communities program, and then the other amount would come from the ARPA funds, the recovery funds.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else from the council? I don't want to put the Carpers on the spot, so tell me if you don't. Would you care to comment about the usage? Okay.
Gail Carper, I currently own, in fact, with my husband, the 529 area. It's 2 lots. I don't know if any of you have been by it. It's 2 very deep lots, one of which has never had a building on it, so it's a decent area to make completely green. One of the things that we were concerned about when we bought it and decided to donate it to the city was that we have a preschool across the street from it, the Catch a Star, and then the Housing Authority has one of its towers there, and they don't have a lot of green space around the tower there. Also, we have a number of people immediately near that area in our neighborhood, up and down the street, who are in wheelchairs. They have ramps to their houses. There's a number of people in wheelchairs who live in the towers, and we were hoping that the park, that when it's the city park, would be designed so that it would be ADA accessible. And I don't know if the city has any experts in ADA design. If we do, great. But that's really our main concern, is that people in wheelchairs will be able to get in there. We did purchase one of the sculptures on the square at a really wonderfully reduced price that we will also donate to that particular place when the park is done. But we're really hoping that it'll be something that our neighbors in wheelchairs can easily use. So, that was kind of, our idea in talking to John and donating it. So if you have somebody in expertise in ADA design, great. If you don't, I'd like to see the design experts be used. It certainly worked when we did the flower beds. And I think, you could have the same effect if you call in some experts when you design a green space like that. The neighbors are really excited about having a park in that area too. I will tell you that we get asked about it all the time. When's the house coming down? When's it going to be a park? So, we'd appreciate anything you do especially for those that are not able to have great mobility.
Thanks. Thank you. Anyone else?
I do have an additional question.
Tammy?
Yes, this is for Mr. Bannon. Mr. Bannon, I know that in the past, the city has had relationships with the Special Recreation as well as the RPTA, and I know that they do designs for Special Rec as well. Would it benefit us to potentially reach out to the university and those departments to see if we can do a collaboration with the students that are already working towards their degrees on Special Rec designs to help us with this project?
I think that would be a great idea. We've already been in talks with the Park District about opportunities for collaboration, but we can absolutely reach out to RPTA as well. I don't know what their capacity and time frame is. I know that most of the professors in RPTA are usually, in all the departments, it usually works better if it's planned out quite a bit in advance. I have some conversations with someone in geography, and so it'll be a future course, so we kind of need to plan it out a year in advance. So I would assume that they would have similar constraints, but I absolutely think a collaboration, even if it's involving something, use of the park and making sure we get the word out to the right people, who might have mobility constraints in the areas, is absolutely a fantastic idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Alderman Begay.
I just wanted to thank the Carpers and the Thorpes for donating these properties. This is a great idea. We're very fortunate that, we're taking a space that was blighted and turning them into some good green space for the city. And I think Ms. Carper hit it on the head. is being that you have Catch a Star down the street, you have a senior center down the street, this is a great opportunity for them to come within their neighborhood and stay within their neighborhood and utilize this park, whether it's ADA compliant, how it's designed. To me, as Mr. Bannon stated earlier, $1,000 is already paid for reimbursement, and then we had the rest of it paid through one of the grants. And I understand your concerns about the funding, but essentially it would cost us nothing to be able to have this done. So it's a great opportunity for us to go ahead and have a win-win. We're taking some bad property, turning it into great property so that the community can have a great space, green space for themselves.
Alderman Brown.
I just wanted some clarification. This, your memorandum is asking for the design, monies to be freed for the design, not for the accommodations inside of the park.
No, I think that that would be for a future committee to, future council to decide. And this is only asking for the design of the properties.
Thank you.
I'll just remind the council that there will be a cost. And even though the 2,000 doesn't sound like much, it still has to be cleared. You still have to put in the sidewalks and whatever else you decide to put in there. So yes, there will be another cost. There will be additional cost to this project. Not that I'm not against the pocket parks, but just keep in the back of your mind, it's not free. I appreciate what the landowners are willing to do, and I'm kind of wish ex-Alderman Carper would have been at the committee meeting, because now I understand the need to do the sidewalks. I was opposed to putting sidewalks in them initially, but with the reasoning and what you want to do with them, I think that's a great idea. So the more conversation, the better more educated we are, and the wiser decisions we hopefully can make. Any other discussion? Alderman Vigezzi?
Mr. Bannon had his hand up.
Alderman Mood would add that the Strong Communities Program has already, their program coordinator has already approved conceptually using the funds for pathways or park design and the implementation therein, and it's anticipated that it wouldn't cost anything in addition to what the grant would cover in terms of the initial capital outlay to make the pocket park. That's not maintenance, but I'm talking about capital to create the park.
Now, this is the same money we use for Fix or Flatten, correct?
Not fix or flatten, but the current demolition program, yes. This is a standalone $200,000 Strong Communities Program grant.
So we're taking money out of it to do this? We would be?
Yes, but the current demolitions came back at a lower bid than we anticipated.
I understand.
And we'll probably do a couple more, but
I like
it's not local
I
tax
like to
dollars.
tear down the dilapidated, just look at what we got rid of on Piper Street.
we've got one down on 829 and we're working on 529.
We started today? Great.
829 is down.
Alderman Brown.
I do have an additional question. This might be better for Director Ortman to respond to. I know that we are often finding ourselves with a shortage of seasonal employees. Could you tell me now, and again, I'm not against the project, I just have questions. Could you tell me how many parks we currently maintain? And this would just be added to 2 additional parks. Because I think a lot of people are concerned, are confused about what is park district and what is city.
The number 9 comes to mind, but I'm not going to swear that that's the right number. But there's quite a few parks that the cemetery crew does outside of the cemetery. So, yeah, 2 more will, we get
And
them,
there's-
then
and
we'll
they're small
have to
lots.
make it work.
They're small lots. I mean, I'm sure
Right.
they're not the largest ones
No,
that they will
right,
be
no,
maintaining,
no.
yes.
No, because we do like Compton Park and
Right.
Memorial Park and Chandler.
Yes. Thank you, Director.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, we'll place this on next week's agenda and final action will be in order. Item number 3, discussion on an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain personal property, equipment, and vehicles owned by the city of Macomb. I believe you have an updated list in the ordinance in front of you. Any questions? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.